thank you so much for talking to us. Want to get to know you a little bit before the big show on Monday. And I always like to do a little bit of an icebreaker. So, one of these two questions, if I could get you to answer them, and it's up to you which one. Um,
Okay.
First, if you could tell me a little bit about your favorite pet or one of your favorite pets from when you were growing up or even to this day, or if you can tell me about an experience that you've had that you thought was going to be really scary, but turned out to be just an incredible one for you.
Oh, that's tough. Tough to choose one. I didn't have a lot of pets growing up. I had them as adults.
Uh-huh.
And I'm an animal lover, but I think it's really important to do a lot of things that scare you. And the thing that is most pertinent to my music career would be the first time that I sang in a contest, which was basically a week after I sang karaoke when I was a teenager.
Really?
Yeah, so I met somebody while I was working in corrections. Actually, my background was working with young offenders,
Wow.
and he was the town musician, and I had always looked up to him. I grew up in Northern Ontario in a really small town called Kirkland Lake.
Hmm.
Long story short, we went out one night as a group of coworkers, and then he had convinced me to go in this contest, which was a week later, to win recording time and to be featured on an album called Spirit of the North, which was out of New Liskeard, which is
Oh,
now
wow.
called Temiskaming Shores. It's
Okay. Yeah.
about 7 hours drive north of here. So I was terrified, of course. I was 19 at the time, and I had not really shared that I loved singing, and I didn't have the confidence yet. But he had convinced me to do it, and we practiced a couple times. And then a week later, I was performing first in front of the town, my own town, because they had some kind of street festival going on. And then the next day was the contest in the following town over.
Okay.
So we went and we placed, and we got to go back the next day, and then we ultimately won a spot on the album.
Wow.
So it was one of the best days of my life at 19, because I had this secret dream of being a singer, and then it came into fruition. But I was certainly terrified
Oh,
before I
yeah.
started. And one thing that I like to look at now is fear and excitement is the same emotion. If you're afraid of something, you're predicting something negative is going to happen, and if you're excited about it, you're predicting something positive is going to happen.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, so I try to look at it through the positive colored lens, and then
Right.
if something negative happens, I worry about it after and not
Mm.
before, because we know from experience that a lot of things we worry about never happens. We
Yeah.
kind of waste that headspace on it when we could be doing other things.
Yeah. And we can taint that experience, taint it the wrong way if we
Absolutely.
have that negative
Absolutely.
thought going
Yes.
in for sure. I
Yeah.
wanted
And
to ask
I've,
you a little bit about your time in Kirkland Lake.
yeah.
Where we're from shapes us, definitely. You kind of did the opposite of me. You went from a small town to a bigger city. I grew up in London and now live in a small town.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah, how would you say that growing up in that small town shaped you, the person you are, and the person you are professionally too?
I think growing up in a small town really helped me with networking, because you pretty much know everybody. So you have that comfort level to approach people. There's jokes about the small town personality, you're friends with everybody.
Uh-huh.
That's always been something that came natural to me. I'm an only child, and I think that's part of it. I always was lonely as a child, so I always wanted to have friends and do things and be out and about.
Hmm.
So I definitely think that helped shape my personality. And then the experience that I got singing in my hometown, I got to be a big fish in a small pond really early, and that gave me the confidence to move on and pursue things, which came way later. I took about a 10-year hiatus from singing, not by choice, just by lack of knowledge of people and lack of connections.
Mhm.
But certainly I wouldn't let that happen again.
Good stuff.
Um,
You were the winner in 2019, so very recently, of
yeah,
the Forest City London Music Award for Contemporary Singer Songwriter. Congratulations.
thank you very much.
How amazing. Um, how have things changed since that big win? And have they changed mostly for the better? Or we went through COVID, so I'm sure that was very, very difficult for everyone, but performers and actors and everyone especially. So, how has
Yes.
that changed things since that big win?
So it really changed a lot of things for me. It made me more recognizable.
Mhm.
I've been lucky to have a really lot of great support within the local media. The London Free Press has really given me a lot of attention since the award, which really makes a huge difference. I meet people out and about and they say they saw coverage of me in the paper and they came out to different shows for that. So all of that is beyond amazing for me.
Mhm.
It's opened up doors for me to perform at different places as well. The more you do, the more recognizable your name becomes.
Yeah.
And I've been in the game again for about 10 years, about 5 years doing solo stuff. So I've built up a lot of connections. But the award definitely opened up some of the bigger opportunities, I think, for opening for some people like Kat Clyde or Jeremy Albino. The Western Fair we got to play at this year, which was a big thrill for us, and Home County Festival we were at in 2019, Rib Fest as well in 2020. So it absolutely opened up a lot of doors. It gave me more credibility as a musician too. So
Oh, yeah.
I've been lucky to work with a great bunch of musicians as well that are all more talented than I am. So they make me look good. But it's helped with my credibility as well because I'm not a professionally trained musician. I've trained myself from learning and observing from other musicians and just like my song, the hard way. I've kind of trial and error, learned different things, done a lot of open mics when I was starting out 10 years ago, again here,
Mhm.
and then took every opportunity I could, good, bad, scary. I've had a lot of unique experiences, and I wouldn't even say bad because you learn from them.
Mhm.
And the funniest situation sometimes brings a really good contact, and that brings something else. And I do have some stories to share later about how doing one thing years later can lead to something else.
Perfect. Well, we'll leave it there because I'm excited to hear these stories when we chat again very soon. But thank you for this little chat beforehand. Appreciate
Yes, no problem.
it.